So I was actually unsure that I was even gonna make this video because I just feel like in today's day and age, a lot of people overshare on social media. Sometimes it may be for clicks, views, or likes. Sometimes I feel like it's just that pressure that you gotta tell people online things even though they know nothing about you. But since I started this content creator journey, I told y'all that I was gonna take y'all behind the scenes with me. So I feel like I would be doing y'all a disservice if I didn't tell y'all some of the things that I learned, because I feel like it could be useful to some. So without further ado, let's talk about why I finally quit my job. And on my last day, I actually walked in with this bag holding all my equipment, my laptops, all my stuff that I've been using for years. And what they gave me in return was actually kind of interesting. Yeah, you good? No, you're fine. You're fine. Good. How y'all doing today? Y'all doing all right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm doing pretty good. For those of y'all who are new here, my name is Adison. And today y'all probably gonna learn more about me than you ever knew. For the past 11 years, I've actually been working IT in the healthcare field. And this is actually something I got my college degree in. I went to school for computer science. I had all intents and purposes of staying in this field. Y'all might have to forgive me because I'm sweating a little bit. It's a little humid out here, but we're gonna get this thing rolling. Before we go any further, if you're looking at this video wanting to see somebody bash a company, bash the people there, bash the corporate life, this is not the video for you, because I'm not going to do that. However, I am going to be honest about my experience and what I got from it and some of the things that I liked and did not like about it. A few things to note. I started out at this company as an intern, and while I was there, I met people who've been working at that job for 20, 30, almost approaching 40 years. So going into it, I knew this is a company that a lot of people invested a lot of time into, and also once they left, had a lot of great retirement options. A lot of people are dreamers. A lot of people have goals, they have visions, they got a lot of things that they would like to get accomplished as an entrepreneur or just business ideas. Oftentimes when you're at jobs, you hear people talk about the things that they want to do that have nothing to do with the job. They also sometimes associate the fact that because they're working for somebody else, that it is hindering them from doing the things that they really want to do. I feel like this is where I had one of the most valuable lessons, because in working for somebody else, I learned a lot about the things that I wanted to take into my own business. I've seen a lot of people as entrepreneurs who are talented and have some pretty cool visions and goals and ideas for things that they want to do, but they are struggling through making it. And me personally, I had mouths to feed, I had a family to take care of. So me having other people struggle while I had my vision at the forefront was just not something that I wanted to do. It's not something that I was going to do. So with that being said, what my life has consisted of over the past 10 years has been working my 9 to 5 and coming back and almost working 5 to 9 to make sure some of the things that y'all see here today have been effective and productive. All right, y'all. I know this video is all over the place. I had intended on recording all of this outside, but shortly after I got started, it had started pouring down, raining. Luckily, the park was just up the street from my house where I was filming. I went home, had to change my clothes because they were soaked. And of course, as soon as I get done with all of that, it looks back amazing outside. Man, I had this whole video planned out, man. I was about to give y'all about 15 more angles, man. But the weather was like, nah, family, sit your behind down. You're not getting as cinematic as you like today. Anyway, we still finna talk. Prior to doing this content creation journey, I would say I tried to kick off maybe like 4 to 5 different group ventures, business ventures, which were on the creative side, and all of those fell through. And when I look back at it, I don't necessarily view those as failures. I do feel like there's lessons in it, but I feel like a lot of the things that failed, I can definitely look at my time working in corporate for the past 11 years and identify exactly what that was and why it was that it failed, whether it be strategy, whether it be business, whether it be consistency, whether it be just how to build and structure a team. I identify all of those things as failing points that when I look at corporate, oftentimes you'll see people talking about that as they're working their job. Another life lesson too that I learned is it's all fun and games starting a business, but it's not fun when people are not getting paid. It's not fun when people are not getting paid. Closer to when I first started out and had a few partners and business things that we were involved in, when people decide to call it quits, in my mind, it was more personal. But then as I grew up and matured, you understand that, like, if the money wasn't coming in, you can't just have folks doing stuff and not getting paid. That's just a fact. And I feel like once you get in an environment where other people's money is on the line for things and they start talking about, hey, these are the things we can and cannot do, you start to understand and respect why certain decisions are made. And I say this just very honestly, I've had a lot of friends who, instead of working for somebody else, they decided to just hop straight into their entrepreneur ventures. And not saying that there's anything completely wrong with that, but it takes a lot to be successful as an entrepreneur, as a content creator. Now, another topic I want to tackle is this mindset of people who feel like they could never work for somebody else. I know the scripture talks about if a man shall not work, he shall not eat. So I think this is something that has been instilled for me from a long period of time. I'm not one of those people who could never work for somebody else. I actually thank the Lord that I've had the opportunity to work for other people, because it has taught me a lot. But I think there's an influx of people who feel like if they're called to be entrepreneurs or business owners, they feel like they could never give 100% to somebody else because it's hindering them from doing what they want to do. And I feel like this could be a dangerous mindset to have, especially if you are not a good leader. For those of you who have been in a team or been in a work environment where multiple people are needed to complete a task, one of the things that you oftentimes should think of is, if I feel like I wouldn't give anybody else 100%, then what will or will not make people give you or your business 100%? And I feel like this is important to identify. This happens in two different places: how you run a team, the leadership, and then how you as an employee or a partner work within the team. If anything, one of the things I learned the most about at corporate, I think during my time there, I had like 4 to 5 different managers. And seeing how each of them leads in different ways taught me a lot about the type of leader that I would like to become. And that was just, again, another point that I feel like I couldn't have got anywhere else, because I didn't have that variety of leadership to kind of compare and contrast success from. I know a lot of you are like, let's talk about the things that you did or did not like. Now, getting into some of the deeper stuff, the feeling of being undervalued because you oftentimes think that it's all about what you've done for a company lately. And I would say for a large portion of the time, I did have that feeling, that sentiment, just based upon the fact that I feel like there was definitely several years where I gave like 110%. And not to say that I feel like it should be respected forever, but you get sometimes complacent. And when you work in a corporate environment, I will say, that is one of the things that will not help you at all. And for good reason. Because if you as an entrepreneur, let's say you have one video that goes viral, 2 or 3 that goes viral, yes, that may open a lot of doors for you. It may actually even give you finances that you didn't have. But I do think if you're complacent and do not continue to see what you can build and do next, those will be things that can take your business down. What I once thought was a negative feeling of what have I done for you lately, I also attribute it more to hey, let's consistently get work done and let's consistently be able to produce at a high level and not get complacent. Because if it was your business and this is something they could take from, imagine if everybody in the business only did one good thing per year. That could have a negative impact on the business as well. I'm just letting you know now, if y'all see this door open and close back and forth, it's because it's been getting hot in here. I'm trying to keep the outside audio out, but your boy's burning up. Another point that I was not necessarily as thrilled about when it came to the corporate scope of things. You could do a lot of great things for the year, right? And this is at any job. You could do a lot of amazing things that whether you feel like it's important or whether somebody else feels like it's important. At the end of the year, they have these things called annual reviews. And for anybody who's worked a job where you get raises or bonuses or things of that nature, sometimes those things are given to you, but most oftentimes you have to document and prove to them, regardless of how visible it was, about how well you think it did for the company. And at the end of the year, this could be something that is really good for you, or you may also disappoint yourself when you actually do get a raise, but it is not as big as you think that it will be. One of the aspects about the entrepreneur side of things that I really do love is the fact that I feel like I can see a better correlation in regards to how hard I work and how much I get compensated because of that work. I will say on the entrepreneur side of things, one of the things I love a lot is the fact that I can see a direct correlation between work, strategy, and effort. For instance, I may work on certain content that I thought was amazing, but it only yielded a little bit of return. Whereas I could work on things that I did not know would do as well. And then once they perform to a high level, I can understand what path that I need to clearly go down after that. So there is a level of, I can kind of determine to a certain extent what my compensation will be and where I need to put my efforts in. Whereas in a corporate environment, somebody could tell you exactly what they want you to do, and you think that it would yield a better return than it may or may not. I just remember certain instances, man, in the corporate environment. I remember vividly there was this one instance where I had a manager who was on me heavy. I mean, almost like had me feeling like if I did not get a project completed, if I did not get some code for a project that we were working on completed before the end of a weekend where I actually had my daughter's birthday on, that was my job. And I remember like literally working to the last hour at the birthday party trying to get this project completed because he had put so much pressure on me about it, working through the weekend. And for Monday morning, I remember turning it in, and then the guy told me, oh yeah, the guy said that we're just going to push this off till the next quarter. And I remember just how like anxious and like mentally exhausted I was in trying to get this finished, but that to just turn around and happen. And that's life. In hindsight, I was a little bit ticked off in the moment, but I understand he was probably getting pressure and he was just cascading that down on me. But that fear of like, oh man, if I don't get this done, like they might walk me out the next day. That was something that I remember like really being something that on my mind. That was one of probably the lowest points. And I know to y'all probably like this everyday life, but it can get like that. It can get like that. So, and in regards to that, not only is it like when your salary, you agree to a certain term. So when you agree to whatever your salary is, you understand that it is not an hourly job. So you know, sometimes for those of y'all who don't know, sometimes you may be working 40, sometimes you may be working 80, sometimes you may be working more than that. That is what a salary position is. It's a part of that. It's a part of that corporate scope, man. Sometimes to be able to get you to do things quicker, they may put pressures on you that are not actually true. They may make you think certain things are more important than they really are in the grand scope of things. And that was just one example or instance of me finding that out the corporate way. For anybody that's working in corporate, maybe any job for that nature, there's this level of leaving a job to come back or leaving the job to go into the market and get equal compensation for that time period. I will definitely say this is something that was super prevalent at the previous place that I was employed at. In fact, without saying names or things of that nature, I did have a coworker at one point who was seeking higher compensation for his role and requested it and did not get it. So this person decided to leave the company. But the interesting thing about it, when they reopened his position, it was literally more than what he was asking for that they ended up hiring a new person on. And it's one of those things that is interesting to me, but it's just, that's what it is in business. It's corporate life. A lot of people gamble. A lot of times people have skill sets that another business may value more than the current business that you're at. And oftentimes when you do finally decide to make that move, the company may decide to bump it up, even if that doesn't include bumping it up for you. I'm not necessarily a fan of bouncing around. I definitely am a fan of being aware of what your value is, but just the bouncing around aspect for me, it was not something that I wanted to do, especially when after hours I was putting in so much work for entrepreneur business ventures anyway. Now, for those of y'all know, I do make content on YouTube. I have thousands of videos online. So when it comes to communicating and talking to other people, that's not something that I struggle with. But when it comes to an intimate group that I work with, it was something I heavily considered about whether I wanted to restart that whole process over again with a new team after leaving the current position that I was at. And that kind of fully weighed into my decision to just go ahead and focus on content creation full time. When you work in a setting, right, everybody wants to get patted on the back for things that they do that they feel like are good without assessing how well it performed for the company. And the reason I feel like this is super important is because there are a lot of people out there, dreamers, visionary. It could be you. Not to say that your idea is bad, but oftentimes people fall in love with what it is that they're doing without realizing if it's something that a lot of people are actually interested in. So I say if you're able and lucky enough to get into business when it's something that you genuinely love, that's great. But know the difference of something that you like to do as a hobby versus what you can do that other people are also interested in doing. Because truth may be, even when it comes to business stuff, I love creating content. I love making videos. I like to edit. I don't like to necessarily edit every single thing that I make or every aspect of it. Getting the stuff done that you do not like to do so that the bills can be paid and that money can be made is essential. You need to work smarter and not harder. I've spent years working harder because I liked something, as opposed to working smarter and getting a better return for not only my investment, but for my time. A lot of people want the freedom to do what they want to do without realizing that they may get overwhelmed by the fact that they don't have a timeline for things, which goes back into another aspect of working in corporate that I think is super important, is they force you to have a timeline for things. One of the things that I started learning very quickly at corporate is be very careful about when you tell something will be delivered, because it'll be written down and documented and you will typically be held to the fire for it. So that is something that I took from the corporate side of things when it came to timelines and project completion, because you got to be tough on yourself. If you no longer want to be a boss, that doesn't mean you can be lazy. That means you need to put standards and guidelines in place for yourself so that you don't let things fail. Oftentimes, whether people hate it or love it, accountability is the thing that actually makes you grow. Oftentimes, you're not growing because you're comfortable. Sometimes being uncomfortable is exactly what you need to grow. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you. If you're somebody who needs to be constantly pushed and prodded on what to do, listen to me. I don't know if you need to quit your job. I'm just going to be 100 with you. One of the most interesting things, though, that I heard from people as I quit my job is I heard a lot of people say, congratulations, this, that, and the third, which is interesting because life tells you that quitting something is not a metric of success. It's sometimes is an indication that you are a person who gives up. But in this regards, when it comes to business, quitting actually opened up an opportunity for me to do more for the business that I started. By the grace of God, I still have both of my parents in my life and also some spiritual mentors in my life as well. And this is not a decision that I just decided to make on my own. I spent hours talking to my parents and other spiritual advisors before I made that decision. Oftentimes, I feel like people get hasty and they just decide to quit out of emotion or out of anger and things of that nature. And they end up putting themselves in a tight predicament. My dad is pretty much straight to it. He's straight by the word. I actually remember him telling vivid stories about sometimes when people would come to him in regards to a job or about school and things of that nature. And he was pretty cut and dry. He was like, hey, if this is stressing you out to the level or taking up so much time to the level that you cannot be what you need to be for God, then you need to leave it. You need to leave it because none of that stuff is worth your soul. And I actually towards the end was feeling like I was super overwhelmed with work stuff on top of doing more work stuff for myself. And I feel like it was actually hindering me for doing more for the Lord because I was so consumed in work. And ultimately, the most important work that I could ever do on this earth is the work for the Lord. So that was another indication that I needed to stop doing something. And that is ultimately another reason why I decided to quit. Now, on this next point, a lot of people could say, hey, you might be kind of in your head about this one. I will also say you just got to pay attention to what's going on at your job. For those of y'all who don't know, AI has become super prevalent. And I honestly feel like, and I could be wrong, and this may be just something I'll live with. I honestly feel like the type of work that I was doing, I would not be surprised if AI could completely replace all of that stuff within the next couple of years, if not sooner. And one of the pieces of advice I got from a spiritual mentor was that it was better to quit before being fired. Not saying that I did or did not know if I was going to be fired, but I do feel like it was one of those things that if I can fully see, hey, the things that y'all are having me do at what point I actually had to spend some detailed time on, now I can put it into chat or some AI bot and have it spit that back out in 5 seconds. I'm looking at it from like, I ain't gonna lie, I got love for y'all. But if I know y'all may not necessarily need me to do this, then I'm pretty sure y'all may know pretty soon that y'all don't need me to do this. Another thing I'll bring up is the fact that I did see a lot of my entrepreneur friends spend a lot of time working hard on their craft and on their business. But one of the things that I did not necessarily love about seeing some of them do it was that they were struggling through it. Now, there's a movie that I saw, I believe by Tyler Perry, which is actually one of my favorite films from him, Acrimony. And in that movie, there was a guy who worked super hard at one of his inventions and some of the things that he had in mind. At the end of that, some people would say he was extremely rewarded. Now, there was also a character, his spouse, who was by his side for a majority of that time. And I don't want to spoil it for y'all, but if you're still watching this video, I gave you a heads up. And you see the toll that it took on that relationship. And as I was assessing my entrepreneur ventures, I didn't want to necessarily drag people through the low parts of that. So as much as that character's success story when it comes to his career and business inspired me, I also assessed the other side. Now, it was extreme. It was extreme. For those of y'all who know, you know. But one of the things that I did think about is I don't want to necessarily drag people through years of uncomfortable situations just because I was bullheaded and stubborn and wanted to make sure that was the only thing I focused on at the detriment of other people's lifestyle. I'm not gonna lie, it's still surreal, man. I still go throughout the week feeling like I have meetings that I need to be at. I still feel like it's something on the calendar or a project that I need to be working on. So it's still fresh and new to me, but I know probably given a week or two that feeling will change. I was surrounded by people who had been at the job for 20, 30, almost approaching 40 years. And then there's this element of a lot of people feeling like my generation can't sit still. So you get this feeling that like people will treat you a certain way because they don't think that you're here for the long term. I remember having those feelings of, people probably think that you're ready to look for another opportunity at any moment's notice anyway. And then there's also that feeling of the pressure of staying at a place for a long time. Like I said, I grew up and my favorite player was Kobe Bryant. So he was with the organization and he made it his prerogative to pretty much stay with that organization until he retired. Certain things like that, they just felt super loyal. And then now when we look at today's climate, players are trading teams every other Wednesday, it seems like. And I don't know if that's so much a changing of the times or changing of the mindset. I'm not sure which one it is. But I know in my mind, there was almost that pressure of like, I want to make sure that I'm staying a loyal guy. But then I started to realize my job is a job. Being loyal to my family and my friends, that's what's important. Being loyal to God is the most important thing that I can be loyal to. And I started to realize this a lot more. On my last day of the job that I told you I was there for over 11 years, I walked in, gave my stuff and my equipment to my director, and I walked out. Nobody was crying. There was no red carpet. Truth be told, a lot of people were working from home that day. So in all due respect, some people sent me some nice messages and things of that nature. But what I mean is the building did not burn down. The work did not stop. I am ultimately just one person out of the thousands of people who work there. As much as I was thinking of myself, I understand and I realize that I am a person. And I am just one individual, that for business reasons, that is what it is. And a lot of times there's this conversation of, oh, you're just a number here, or you're just a number. You can be easily replaced. And while that may be true, that does not mean you're not valuable. And we also are in a generation now where there's this trend going around of silent quitting or loud quitting. And that was definitely one of the other things that my spiritual advisors told me. Don't burn bridges. You know what I'm saying? Don't burn bridges. Well, there's some things that I did or did not like at the company, 100%. But at the same time, I don't know where y'all don't know. Maybe in 10 years, I could be back there. Maybe not. But bare minimum, I just encourage all of you all, do not burn bridges. Don't get me wrong. I've watched quite a few of the videos of people recording themselves, snapping on their manager and the whole people, making themselves the biggest BLT before they leave a place, biting it and walking out. Like although all of that stuff is crazy and maybe there's some wrong that's been done to them, it's like, family, you just burn your bridge, because I understand you put that out. You might have felt the way about that company, but I know other companies might be a little cautious when hiring you when you do something that extreme. Y'all don't burn bridges. If you want to leave, just leave. Don't take the door with you on the way out. Just walk out the door. Another big thing, I remember talking to my dad about this, is once I started to see some success on content creation and social media, and I was antsy, like I was like, man, I think it might be about time that I feel like I could do it full time and kind of step away from my 9-to-5, because I feel like I can make bigger leaps if I were able to put more time into it. And his advice to me was, make sure you can see consistent results before you do that. So At the time when I talked to him, I think we had mentioned maybe me seeing about 5 months of consistent results before I did it. I went about 10 months, I would say, before doing that. And that's one of the things that I caution all of you all against. If you have 1 month where you just went crazy on social media or content creation or whatever it is that business venture is, that does not mean you should instantly quit your job, okay? Because you have not tested the market, you have not tested your success long enough for that to happen. Now, there are going to be some cases out there that are 1 in a million chances, right? And you have one great month, and from then on out, every month is better than the previous month. And that may be true. But I feel like for anybody, especially if you're doing content creation, today you could be talking about one topic. Tomorrow, they say that topic is no longer allowed. I would almost say 5 to 12 months of success before you just full out decide to stop doing your 9 to 5. The most important thing that we have on this earth is time. It's not money. It's not how much stuff you have. It's time. Working and making sure that you're providing for yourself, being responsible and providing for others is super important. And I'm a big person on just because I make something, it's not for me. God did not give me money, finances, and opportunities just to do things for myself. He gave me this stuff to be able to bless other people. Oftentimes when you hear people speaking about blessings, they're speaking about what they've got instead of thinking about the opportunity that they have things to do for other people. I'll repeat this again. Oftentimes when people think about blessings, they're only considering what they are receiving instead of what they can give. Let's go ahead and dive into what it is that they gave me in return for the equipment and gear that I provided back to them. Not sure if y'all can see that or not, but nothing. That's right. They gave me nothing back. And a lot of y'all are thinking like, dang, you built that up just to say that. And the thing that I got back in return was space. And redeeming the time is super important and super valuable. Because I was an entrepreneur, I was working a 9 to 5 and then pretty much working a 5 back to 9 again, because that's how much work it took to get my business at a level that I feel like was sustainable and successful. But what it ended up taking away from me was time with family and just my overall well-being. Oftentimes you get attached to things, people, or places that you've been with for so long. And not to say I was not getting any value from them, but I did have to assess what it was taking away from me when I was putting all my energy and efforts into only working, whether that be for myself or for somebody else. A lot went into this thought, man. First and foremost, I just thank God for the positions that he's put me in life. I am no longer working my 9 to 5. And now I honestly know I still have to work hard, but I do have a lot more time to not only dedicate to my business, but also dedicate to the Lord. And I'm super excited about that. Hopefully this video helped anybody out there who needed to hear that, or who did not have other people in your life that you can talk to about stuff like this. But that's it, man. Love y'all. I got more content dropping on this channel. As always, make sure y'all tap in with me on my reaction channel too. We have a lot of fun there. A lot more funny and less serious than some of the stuff that we dive into on this channel. I don't always joke. I'm actually probably a lot more serious than people think I am. And I feel like this channel is giving me the opportunity to kind of showcase some of those elements. Man, I can't believe I did that. But yeah, I quit my job.